planning a trip to Vietnam, you must know the 7 things that you should never do in Vietnam. Before you touchdown on your adventure, it is crucial to be aware of the do's and the do nots, so for offending the locals. Vietnam is rich in traditions, history, and culture, and that is going to significantly differ from what you experience at home. We lived here for 3 months, and we made mistakes that we didn't even know about until it was too late. 6 and 7. But we're here to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes we did. So get ready to learn some must-know tips for foreigners coming to Vietnam. So our first tip is giving the thumbs up. While in many cultures, this is a sign of approval. However, not in Vietnam. In Vietnamese culture, this is actually has a totally different meaning. And that symbol is actually kind of like doing talk to the hand or a sassy eye roll like I just did. It's not really the type of thing you want to do if you want to connect with the locals. So when you get to Vietnam, think twice before you're giving the thumbs up, and you can do something simple as giving someone a smile or even saying thank you in Vietnamese, which has taken me about 3 months, but I think I got it. It's Cum Un. Please someone tell me if I got that wrong. Tip number 2, touching someone's head. Oh, the golden rule in Vietnam, thou shalt not touch someone's head. While you're probably not gonna go up to someone in the street and just bonk them on the head with your hand, let's unpack this and why it's definitely not okay in Vietnam. In Vietnamese culture, the head is actually the most sacred part of the body. It represents the soul and dignity. So, touching someone's head, especially an elder or a monk, is a big no-no in Vietnam. But that's not all. Outside of it being just a little intrusive to go and touch someone's head, it's also viewed as very unclean. It's kind of like dipping your fingers into a bowl of pho. You just don't do it. So let's keep our hands to ourselves and show some respect. So we're on to tip number 3, and that is showing the soles of your feet. The humble soles of our feet. Often overlooked, but it's very offensive in Vietnamese culture. Yes, my fellow travelers, it is time to put those feet etiquette on high alert and avoid any soulful blunders. In Vietnamese cultures, the feet are at the lowest part of the body, and that can be associated with dirt and impurity, so showing your feet in public, especially in a disrespectful manner, is a big no-no. Imagine being in Vietnam, sitting cross-legged and blissfully eating your bowl of pho, when all of a sudden you realize that the soles of your feet are facing a shrine or an elderly lady. No! Put them down. And also, remember, when you are entering someone's home or a shrine or temple, make sure to leave your shoes at the door so not only we can keep it clean, but to show respect. Tip number 4 is abruptly stopping in the middle of the road while crossing the street. Crossing the street in Vietnam can be an exhilarating experience. It's kind of like playing a game of real-life Frogger. It can be crazy trying to dodge through a sea of motorbikes and cars, wondering if you're gonna get hit at any moment. But here's a tip. Whatever you do, do not abruptly stop in the middle of the road. That is a sure way to get hit. You see, the streets of Vietnam are like organized chaos. So every car and bike is moving around with skill and precision. So when you're crossing the road, you're like a part of this orchestrated chaos, and abruptly stopping in the middle of the road is like hitting the wrong note in a symphony. Not only can this cause confusion and chaos, but it can be really dangerous. Imagine a motorbike coming at you full speed, and instead of continuing to walk, you stop. Maybe take a selfie, or like me, just freeze. Not a good idea. So keep calm and just keep on walking and have a little trust. The traffic will just flow around you. Happy crossing. Tip number 5 is tapping chopsticks on your bowl. The art of using chopsticks, as many foreigners try to get really good at this in their hometown Asian restaurant. Do not tap your chopsticks on the bowl in Vietnam, and here's why. In Vietnamese culture, tapping your chopsticks on your bowl is actually very impolite and not sensitive. Also, it is not a means of passing time or having a little drum solo. But why? Well, in Vietnam, tapping your chopsticks on the bowl is actually associated with funerals and offerings to the deceased. It's considered bad luck and disrespectful to mimic this during a meal. Also, it's believed that it can disturb the spirits of the deceased. So let's keep those chopsticks in check And why don't we use them instead to pick up our delicious Vietnamese food throughout the country? Before we get to the last two that we actually made mistakes on here in Vietnam, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so we can know if you're liking this content and you want us to make more. Tip number 6 is crossing your fingers. This one we unknowingly did several times in Vietnam, and we're about to debunk this myth. Despite this popular belief, crossing your fingers in Vietnam does not mean good luck or anything good. In fact, it's quite the opposite. In Vietnamese cultures, crossing your fingers actually resembles a specific part of the body, the toes. And it's extremely disrespectful to show this gesture to someone in Vietnam. So, in my experience, when we were at the Phang Nga trek, if that sounds interesting, check out this video. Anyway, we were at the Phang Nga trek and we were hoping that it wasn't gonna rain outside. I looked at my guide and I crossed my fingers and I said, hopefully it doesn't rain. Yeah, don't do that. It's kind of like giving someone the middle finger. So when he sat down and explained it to me, I was so embarrassed. So don't be like me and think twice before you cross your fingers for good luck. And moving on to our last tip is waving someone over. Unless you're looking to get into an altercation, you might want to avoid waving someone over in Vietnam.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
This gesture is used to call over animals or even start a fight. So instead of calling over someone in Vietnam like this, big smile, hand up, and you're gonna wanna wave like this to call someone over. Way more culturally appropriate, don't do the other one. Knowing this, should you still visit Vietnam? Absolutely! This place is breathtaking and it is some of the friendliest locals I've ever met. As we look back on our mistakes, the people we unknowingly did them to were never rude to us or made us feel like we were doing it on purpose. They still made it a point to make sure we felt welcomed in their country. So with that, Vietnam, we say Khum Un. And until next time, fellow travelers.